Hello and welcome to week 10. As promised last week, for the next couple weeks we're going to be diving deeper into Project 3, which is on the effectiveness of communication and collaboration. So as I scroll down through the Project 3 requirements, when I get to the direction section, we're going to focus on part 1 this week, which is on communication and collaboration, the feedback survey. So there are a few directions provided in the paragraph at the top of that section to get you started, and then once you read that, there are three main pieces to the first part of the project. The first is that you are going to choose an appropriate method and or tool for collecting feedback. You have some directions, and then you have 5 bullet points to be concerned about when choosing that tool. And those include your target population, the number of respondents your survey will be sent to, tools that are universally accessible, cost to your school, and convenience and ease of use. So I want to talk about the second bullet point, which is the number of respondents, and the fourth one, which is the cost to your school. There are a number of tools out there that are available with both free and paid memberships, and with those you have some restrictions in terms of if you go with the free options of a paid tool, you may be limited to the types of questions you can answer or you can ask, the number of responses that you can put tied to those questions, or even the number of participants you can include in your survey. So you want to factor all of those into your decision of choosing a tool. On top of that, you have some other options that are universally available to everyone, such as like Google Forms. But then when you start looking at that, you have the possibility that your Google Forms information might get out to the general public, and then you have some different responses in there that might skew your data. So there are other security concerns you might have to factor in. So you have all those different things to think about with the first part is what tool are you going to use and why are you going to use it? Like what led you to that decision? And you need to include information about these 5 factors. With that, you're just not choosing a tool based on those factors. You want to be able to show information from the different resources that house the tool as to how you came up with that choice. So you want to show that you've actually checked out all the different factors that are associated with the tool in order to make that decision. Then you come to the second point, and you're going to focus on creating valid questions to solicit feedback from students and their support systems about the effectiveness of collaboration and communication in your course. We're going to come back to that piece in just a minute because I want to go down to the third bullet point, which is that you're going to clearly explain why you selected the survey tool or format and how and why you chose the survey questions. So with all this, all of the project, every piece of the project has to be tied back to research in one way, shape, or form. The main way of doing that is that you've been provided with, and I'm going to scroll for just a minute, some resources to go along with Unit 3. So I want to go back to the table of contents, or not Unit 3, Project 3. And I want to scroll down to Project 3, Effectiveness and Communication and Collaboration. And Unit 3.1 provides a bunch of, that is all tied to what you'll need to use and know in order to effectively put together your Project 3 Part 1 submission. So if I go into that link, you have some unit resources. And as I go down through the list of those resources, you have a reading, a paper, that is a full text on asking students about teaching, student perception surveys, and their implementation. So that is very important that you read that entire article or publication, and would probably be something good to cite in your project. As you scroll down a little bit further, it gives you some things to consider when you're reading it, some questions to ask. Then you get to designing and testing questionnaires for children. Again, very important. Download the PDF, read all of that information. There are some questions that go along with it that you should really answer. The biggest hint that I can give you is these questions that are provided will help you put together the pieces of your project that you need in order to meet the requirements for the rubric that's used to grade your project. And then you'll come to 7 tips for good survey questions, which is a video, a website that is about the 7 deadly survey questions. Very important you read. You don't want to ask any of those in your survey. Website that includes 17 of the best. So there are plenty of resources to go with without having to go anywhere outside of the resources you're provided with in order to write your project or develop your project for part 1 of project 3. Now I will emphasize that there are 3 main pieces to any project that you put together in this program that you need to focus on. And the first is that any information you write should come from quality resources that need to be cited both in text and in your resources section. So you can't just go start writing a paper and type out everything that research says you should do without putting an in-text citation to go along with it, and then just put together a references page and submit. You have to have those tied together. You have to have it throughout. So once you have what research says you should do, then the second piece is that you need to be talking about what you actually do. And now you may find out that you read some research and it tells you should be doing one thing and you're doing another, and you realize, hey, I need to change some of what I'm doing. And those specific examples are what you talk about in that piece. So you want to do specific information that's tied to research, and then you want to give examples of how you're doing that in your course. And you want to cite those throughout, both in the text and outside. The final third and final piece, probably should have been the first, is that anytime you go back, if I go back to the table of contents, anytime you have a different piece, not just part, but different piece to the project. So if I go to project 3 and I go to the project 3 instructions and rubric, when you go down to what to submit, directions, you have choose an appropriate method or tool of collecting feedback. That should have its own specific subheading, and then all the information that goes with it should come after that. Then second, you should have a second subheading that's all about the questions that you're going to ask and all that piece. And then third, you should have a third and final clearly marked subheading section that explains why you chose each of those 2 different options for your project. So those are the 3 parts: citations, in-text and references to quality resources, examples of how you are carrying out what the research says you should be doing or how you're going to change your practices in your own classroom, and then divide your paper out using those subheadings. This will help you complete part 1 of project 3 in EDU 540.